Hey everybody, today's video is going to be understanding the difference between motion and movement. And they may sound like very, very similar terms, but when we talk about the golf swing, most people are trying to put things into motion, which is going to be defined as more of a straight line force, or trying to use straight line forces to make a curve. Whereas the idea of movement is something that is inherent in our bodies relative to our center of gravity and the center of the earth. And it is always the understanding of extending, curving lines. All right, let's get started. All right, the first thing to do is to really understand the difference between motion and movement. Your body happens to be very good at movement, but golf tends to be taught as motion. And you can loosely interchange those terms and say, well, it's just semantics. But in the case of this video, I want it to be very non-semantical here, or I want the semantics to matter. So motion by its definition is the tendency for an object to stay in a straight line. Our eyes see things in two dimensions. They don't see in three dimensions very well. So we're not really aware how much we curve our movements to create any of the physical tasks that we need to do to survive on Earth. So I'm going to use the basic chip shot as kind of the illustration of this. If a player, goes and takes a lesson because they're using the club as a lever and they're slapping at it and they just don't understand the movement, well, the first thing they're going to be taught, they're not going to be taught how to move better, they're going to be taught the motion. So they're going to be taught to get more structured and rigid, make sure that they manage the arc by using what actually amounts to straight line forces. And so, for better or for worse, their body may be trying to kind of make it a little easier, but the mind and the coaching is all about trying to make it stay on an arc. So I want to make sure there's no hinge in the wrist, there's nothing natural in it. If I keep everything really locked up and I force the golf club to stay in a motion, then it'll work. Now, can you hit a chip shot like that? Of course you can. The problem is that that'll never work in the full golf swing. If you're trying to create a golf swing as a motion, you're trying to control the plane or the path of the golf swing with the rigidity of the club and the strength of your muscles, you're making it impossible. You don't move that way when you do things naturally. Now, movement is very, very different. So movement actually is your body's ability to reach in simple curves. So your body, you may mentally think that, hey, I want to get from point A to point B. Your body does it, though, in a curving, rotating manner all the time. It does it in the form of a logarithmic spiral. So just take, for instance, if I want to touch my nose, I don't actually try to physically get my finger to go in a straight line to my nose. I actually use almost a swinging energy where I actually reach in a curve. So the path of least resistance in the existence of a gravitational field is around our body. It's always a curving movement that has a flow inward or outward that's very, very natural. That's a function of gravity. And so what we do as human beings is we may have the desire to create a motion or get a part to make a movement in a certain spot to create a task, but we use movement to do it. We don't actually inherently use motion to do it. And that changes everything. So this is why the amateur golfer looks so far off from the tour pro, why they look so much more efforted, is because effort is the idea of trying to create motion. So what I want to do in the next segment of this video is we're going to explore this in the way that, again, a chip shot is coached, and then the way that I would actually have you learn it if you were to learn it as a movement. All right, let's move on. Okay, so little experiment here. This kind of delves into the understanding that, again, if you chase form, you don't always get function, but if you chase function, you will actually get form. Okay, so here is what I would call a motion-based chip shot in the context of what we've been talking about. I'm going to try to force the arc and stay very rigid in my movement. So if we video that, I'm going to have a nice little forward shaft and I'm going to have crisp contact and everything like that. But in my body, that was really difficult. Like, that took a lot of force and control to create that. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use movement to hit the exact same golf shot. Now, it probably won't look a lot different when it comes down to the impact position. In fact, it might even look a little bit better, but here's a movement. Now, in my body, that felt completely different. I was much more interested in allowing the golf club just to move to the ball. And through my repeated experiences of having that context, understanding that I'm reaching or touching in the direction of the golf ball, my body naturally makes the movements that support that. And that's how you learn how to do everything. So when one takes golf lessons, a lot of times you want to be really careful, because it's not that it's bad per se, but it's just the way that most of us know in the golf industry is because we copy the other teachers. Well, the teachers are teaching positions and motion, so I better do that, and that's how my players are going to learn best. Well, I found that actually that doesn't work very well. It's far better for a person to understand the context of movement, and that a golf swing is a movement, and get them to explore that and understand that on their own terms. That tends to be what eradicates all the things that they're doing that are extra in the long run. So an exercise that I always love to do for chipping, and this is a great thing you can do in my training aid, the pros, what I've called the wrecking ball exercise. I have other videos on this and whatnot, but the wrecking ball forces you into movement and not to use motion. So movement, again, is the ability for the body to create natural curving patterns to accommodate the task. Because when I do the wrecking ball here, and so I call it the wrecking ball because the object is basically to get it in a sling and get the timing of that to line up such that the cylinder at the very end naturally accelerates and strikes for me. That is an act of movement. And so even though it may look very kind of straight line, my body's starting to learn how, as it kind of dances with this movement, it starts learning how to create real subtle curves. It learns how to use the pelvis a certain way. It learns how to let the joints go a little way. It learns the timing of it. So now I'm in movement. If I try to use the stiff, rigid motion that people are taught how to chip with, here's what it looks like. Doesn't work very well, okay? Because this has got a lot of what we call a disproportionality. Movement is always balanced relative to two things: the distance from your line of gravity, your center of gravity, and the distance from the center of the earth. All your movements that you do naturally without thinking and in perfect effortless balance, all your body parts naturally distribute themselves around your line of gravity constantly. So it's something you're actually very good at. The reason why it can work with a golf club is that because it's rigid, I can force it to stay in an arc if I want to. But if I use it in the function of a wrecking ball, changes everything. And so most of what we see when we have really, really clean chipping, it's not this idea of forcing the handle to stay forward and trying to create and control the arc. It's actually the ability to understand that the arc actually kind of already exists in us. So if I can learn the function first, which would be my wrecking ball movement, oh yeah, I don't have to do much. As I get better and better at this, my body really starts to understand what's coming, and it starts reacting. So it starts to pivot and turn very, very naturally. And of course, this is the foundation for any golf shot you're going to hit. If I can then apply that to the golf club, which means now I'm no longer trying to control it through its rigidity and trying to force a motion, I'm going to treat it like a movement. Now, it's challenging because, again, the center of mass of the golf club is really sending signals to you to lever it. But if I can learn how to use my golf club like a wrecking ball, so you can see as I change directions how it kind of lags a little bit. It's not that I'm trying to flick it back and make it lag, is that what I'm doing is I am sensing the movement. The intention of the movement is to simply, hey, I want the golf club to sling back behind me and then just reach out and strike the golf ball for me. And that would be the foundation. So when I coach short game, I actually want to see fluidity and movement. I don't want to see rigidity at all. What happens as a player starts to play more and more golf and they want different types of shots, they learn how to instinctually change the way that they move ever so slightly to accommodate a different delivery. So if I wanted to hit it low, I'm going to move in a way that's going to allow that to happen. But if I want to hit it high, well, I'm going to change my movement a little bit to create a little bit different, what we would call a release pattern. So at the end of the day, this applies to all parts of golf. It's just very easy to illustrate this in a short game shot, is that if you really want to get somewhere in golf, you have to stop trying to create motion. Motion is trying to use straight line forces to create curves. Very, very difficult to do, certainly at a high rate of speed. Whereas movement is the ability for your body to naturally reach and rotate in perfect harmony. And if you can start to conceptualize the golf swing with that, starting with a chip shot's a great starting place, you can really start to get somewhere with your golf game. Okay, see you all next time.